Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the videos. So, look at that. Got that thing torn apart, waiting for parts. So, decided to move on to the next project. This is a 2022 Maverick Max Turbo RR, and I'm going to be putting some accessories and everything on this. So, here's what I've got for some parts so far. Going to be installing a new front bumper. I've got a Warren winch here that I'm going to be putting on. That's a 4,500 pound winch with the synthetic rope already on it. Going to be putting another set of the Gorilla whips. Check out a couple of my other videos where I installed those on some Polaris razors as well. Got a 40-inch rigid single row light bar here we're going to be putting on. Also have a set of rigid cube lights. These are the diffused floodlights, and this is going to be for putting them on the back of the cargo rack. And then those will be activated using the Sam's backup light kit. So anytime you hit the gear shifter into reverse, you can activate those lights. Again, if you want to check out the video that I just did, part 2 of the Defender video, where I talk about the process of how that Sam's backup light kit works and how you can put it into a manual mode. So if you're parked somewhere, you can just put it into manual mode and those lights can be on, so you can be working in the bed of the machine or somewhere around the machine if you need work light. Next thing is the Ryco turn signal kit. Same thing, you guys know I'm in favor of these steering post mounted turn signal kits. The hazard lights activated right there, and then you got the horn activation right there. So no need to put in an extra rocker switch. These things are pretty limited on space as it is. So again, I like those. That is a kit 8103A, and the A means that we are putting in the new accent lights. So these will be the lights up front. Those will activate when we hit the turn signal. Also putting on a set of Gorilla rock lights. Putting on 4 of those, basically in the fender wells. Also going to be putting on a heater. This is some extra vents that I have already, and extra tubing and some zip ties and everything for the heater. Here are my rocker switches. Again, got these from Over the River and Through the Woods, the switch guys. Again, I love these because they match the original CanAm kind of look with these little raised bumps here. And as usual, these will be backlit in orange LED. Another thing I'm going to do here's the cargo rack. So we got to get that put together and get it put up on top of the machine. And another addition, Hunter Safety Products, putting in a bench seat in the back. This owner has 3 kids, so obviously the bucket seats just aren't going to cut it. So we're going to get that pulled out. I believe we do have to do some modifying of the center console there, and I've even read or heard stories about people modifying the grab handle there just for that center person there, leg room and everything, and they're not hitting that. So we'll have to see how that goes and see what needs to be modified there. But that's it, guys, to start with. So I'm going to do a little bit better job, hopefully this time around, on taking videos as I do the installs again, show you guys how I do it, some of the wiring process that I go through, and maybe even talk to you guys about things that I run into as I install accessories on these machines. I remember on the last video for the other X3 that I did, with the locking electric front differential lock on these machines, when you're putting the winches in, it does make it a little more difficult. So I do these videos like this just to hopefully help you guys if you're doing this yourself in your garage or in your shop, and maybe give you some ideas, a different way of doing things, or maybe a different product to install from what your buddies have, or something else. Again, making your machine different than everybody else's is kind of like the best part of all this. So all right, stay tuned. We're going to get started on this, and again, as always, if you like everything that you guys see in here, continue to hit the like button and subscribe. Big thanks to all my new subscribers from the last couple of months. I've been trying to answer comments as quickly as I can for the previous videos. So if you do have something, please make a comment below, and I always try to get back to you within a day or two as long as time allows. All right, let's get started. All right, guys, I told you I'd try to give you some videos here as I do some installs. So working on the front bumper and the winch install right now. And when you get the front bumper, you can get the instructions online through CanAm's website. Just kind of walk through here real quickly. You're going to remove some bolts here and here. Remove the one on the side here. You're going to remove a couple bolts here. And then you're going to remove the larger 18 millimeter bolts, which are part of the lower control arms. You're going to remove those two. And that's all pretty easy. You're also going to remove the lower bolt here that holds the radiator into that lower part of the bumper. Hopefully you can see that. So this is where it is. Remove that bolt and washer and nut. And then that's where the easy part ends. So the next thing is to remove the upper control arm nuts on both sides. The driver's side is easy, the passenger side not so much. Now, if you have a machine that does not have the front electric locker, then it's easy. If you have the one like this machine that has the electric locker on it, right there, then you cannot get, or at least I can't anyway, you can't get a ratchet and socket on the head of the bolt so you can put a wrench over here and get that nut off, okay? So I've done this a couple times, and this is what I've found is quick and easy, or easier, I guess. I don't know how quick it is. I just don't have any specialty tools and everything. I just have regular, four-man shop tools. So what I do is I take off the nut. Hopefully you can see it right there. I just back the nut off and then take the bolt as far back as that plate right there, okay? Take the nut off, and then I take the 4 bolts out of the bottom of the diff, and then that allows you to slide the diff around a little bit. And it's just enough now so you can actually get a ratchet and a socket on that side, and you can work on breaking this thing loose. So hopefully that helps you guys. That's the way that I've done it. Like I say, this is probably 3rd or 4th machine I've done it on this way that has that front electric locker. The ones that don't have the electric locker, you can get, just like on the passenger side, you can get a ratchet and socket in there on the head of the bolt. There's no problem. But you can see, that locker gets in the way because it actually is supposed to be forward even more. But again, I have the diff unbolted from the frame, and I've pushed back on it just a little bit. It kind of turns it towards the passenger side as you push back, and that's just enough to get the ratchet and socket in there. And then again, you can just easily reach in here with the wrench and break that free, and then the front end's gonna come off. So hopefully that little bit of information helps you guys. Okay, let me get this pulled off and we'll go to the next thing. All right, guys, I just wanted to follow up to what I was talking about earlier. So I was able to get this bracket back in there. Hopefully you can kind of see that right here. So tab's part of it right there. So it's all the way in there now. I have done this again a couple of times, and one thing I always found difficult is to get this bolt through the plate and then through this piece of the frame and lined up with the top of the control arm here. The hole in that, with the sleeve and everything. So one thing I've done, the other side, it's not a big deal. Obviously you got a bunch of room, but on this side here, I go ahead and drill out that hole that's in that plate. I think it's a 1/2 inch hole. I drill it out to 5/8. There's still plenty of flange left on the bolt, to put some pressure on that plate, not like it's gonna pull through. So I found that out on the first one that I did, and ever since then, I always do them all the same. It makes putting that bolt, again, through that plate, through the frame, and then lining it up easier. Just allows you to wiggle that bolt a little bit inside the hole, and then it goes right in. I fought with it on the first one for a long time, trying to get it lined up, and as soon as I drilled it out, it went right in. It just needed that little bit of extra wiggle room to get it lined up and through there. So now this thing's ready for the bumper to go on. I went ahead and put the bolts, or the nuts back onto here, put that plate back on. The diff isn't bolted in yet. It's just sitting where I kind of left it. You know, you can see it's moving there. So now it's time to put the bumper on, and then with the supplied hardware, it comes with new flat washers and nylocks. That'll go on all 4 of those locations there. But before I do that, I'm going to finish removing the rest of this plastic here. I'm going to be doing a turn signal kit that's actually going to remove these accent lights and replace them with the ones that'll flash amber when you have your turn signals on. So I'm going to switch over to doing that here in a minute. I do recommend going ahead and installing your winch in your bumper while it's just sitting here on the ground, because you can see those bolts back there. They're kind of hard to get to once this is mounted into the machine. You know, this is the part of the frame of the machine, and these are the 4 bolt holes that are on those control arms where you're going to put your nylocks and your washers on this side. So there's not much room to put, you know, to get in there. And so that's why I always recommend go ahead and pre-installing your winch on the bumper, getting it ran through where the fair lead's going to go. We'll get that all bolted up and wired up later. But anyway, just what I recommend doing. I've done it several times that way, and it seems to work out good. So that's what it looks like up front. And inside here, so I've got everything torn out, all the seats. Again, we're going to get a HSP bench seat that goes in the back. So the center console in the rear has to be all cut out anyway. So I just took everything out here. We've got a Heatercraft heater that's going in right here. Right now I just got it kind of mocked up here. Got 2 lines going to the front, so I don't know if you can see back in there, there'll be a port that exits out on each side, driver and passenger, out into your foot area. And then there's also one up here to act as a defroster on both sides of the windshield. Waiting for that windshield to get made right now from Inner Demon Motorsports. So I figured I'd go ahead and get started on getting all this ready, getting the heater anchored down here in a minute. So this tube here is eventually going to go back to the back, and I have a splitter for it and a couple more vents for it like this that'll go into the plastic here on each side, and that'll give the rear passengers some heat as well. So advantage of having the heater mounted underneath the driver's seat at this point is that that's a pretty short run. On other 4-seaters, especially the Polaris, when you have them mounted underneath the dash, that run is pretty long, and I heard from a lot of people that you end up losing a lot of heat. So by the time the air is coming out of these rear vents, it's warm at best. You know, it's not very hot like it normally is. So as you guys know, not much room underneath there to mount this. So this is the mounting location for it now. We got a pre-filter around the motor. These are actually water resistant, at least anyway, not meant to be completely submerged in water, but if water splashes on them, they'll still run. In my machine, I had 8,000 miles on machine. I went through lots of water and everything, and that heater and everything still ran great. So brand new heater in here. We'll get the ducting once we figure out how that's all gonna work in the back there. We'll get that ducting put in there as well. So, all right, that's it for now, guys. I'll keep on and showing some more parts of the install as we keep on going. Okay, on to doing the accent lights for the turn signal kits. So you can see I already have the driver's side installed, and of course I removed the passenger side and didn't take a video of it. So just kind of wanted to show you here what the process is. If you're installing a new bumper, you're going to have most of the plastics already loose like this. And an additional screw up here that needs to come off. And then the plastic just comes apart at the lights. There's these little tabs that go into the light. There's female tabs on the light, and then these little pieces snap into it. So once you work that around, and then there's going to be 3 screws. 8mm is the size. So there's going to be one right here. There's going to be one right inside here. So when you peel this back, it's going to go right in there. And then the last one is down inside here. So the screw is right below this piece which is for your grill. So it's right there. Not that one that takes your grill off, but this one right here. So I'll show you that here on the other side where I already have the other ones installed already. So you can see that screw right there. That one's going to come out. The other one's going to be right here. And then the other one is going to be right inside there. It's kind of hard to see, but you pull the plastics apart to get to that one. And then here is the new accent light for the passenger side. And so what I recommend is go ahead and chase some threads into these holes. These 3, you can see hopefully that shows up. You can see I did that there on these 3. And what that does, that just helps you put in the screws back in there, because you're kind of doing it with one finger or a couple fingers and you know, one hand in there trying to at least get it started before you can put your ratchet or a ratchet wrench on it. And so it just makes it easier if those are already threaded already, and they don't come from the factory that way. So all right, I'm going to toss in the other side, and then we'll proceed to the next step. All right, so I'll show you here. I got both the accent lights installed. This one was kind of a pain in the ass. The connector didn't really want to go in there, so I had to take the light back out and then just kind of work with it here. One of the tabs on the inside was kind of bent a little bit, so it wouldn't allow the plug to go all the way in. So I got that straightened out. So here it is here. I did just want to give you guys another tip here. Put some masking tape, or this is painter's tape, on this headlight. When you're trying to get the screw that's out here, I use a ratchet wrench for that, and what ends up happening is the wrench is actually rubbing up against the headlight assembly. So if you don't want to put nice little scratches in the headlight, go ahead and put some painter's tape on there, or masking tape, or something to protect it while you're doing that. So I was going to go back to the back here and show you how to test for the brake light and tail light functions on the machine. So I've got everything temporarily wired up, got the battery back together. So we'll just do that. We'll do left turn signal. You guys have seen those before, but that's what it looks like. So in the back here, when you're ready to connect the rear lights, run all the wires down through the center console there, and you're going to get back here in the back. And you're going to locate the tail light, brake light plug. Hopefully I can show that to you there. See if we can get a little closer there. Okay, so I've got this disconnected right now, and what we're trying to find out is which one of the wires is the tail light function and the brake function. So the has a black wire, a purple with white, and an orange with white. So I'm going to put the ground here on the black, and I still have ignition power. So the center one, which is the purple and white one, is your tail light. And the orange and white one usually is the brake light. So that's not turning on right now because there's nobody pressing the brake pedal. So the orange and white one is the one that we're going to tie the Ryco turn signal kit into, which will activate the rear brake lights when we turn the turn signals on. So what I'm gonna do is, in the instruction manual, they tell you to come back here about 2 inches, cut the orange and white wire, and then you use their solderless butt connectors to connect this to it. And I'm gonna do something differently. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna pull it out of the plug here, the orange and white wire, pull it back just a little bit, and then put it in there. And then that way the plug can go back in. You know, they talk about when you cut the wire, you're gonna have a piece, you know, a short little piece here, and you're supposed to fold that out and away. I don't like to do that, so I just spend the extra little bit of time to go ahead and take the plug apart and pull this out, and then I make my connection outside of the plug, and then this can go back in, and then there's no extra wire having to be tucked back into the wire loom or anything. Again, just the way I do it. I'm sure most people would just go ahead and cut this and leave this little piece sitting here, which is then tucked away somewhere. Just not how I do it. So I'll get started on that. All right, I want to get caught up here on a couple of things that I've got completed. Sometimes it's hard to show the installation of some things just because it takes so long. And, you know, rather than showing you a video and you know, speeding it up, I'd rather just kind of show you the final product here. So got everything buttoned up here on the front. We got the new accent lights with the Ryco turn signal, integrated into that. The new bumper, new Warren winch with synthetic rope, winch stopper, your hook and everything here. There's a new skid plate that comes with the new front bumper. Got the front diff and everything all bolted back together. So it's all ready to go. You can see the winch here. Got my 2 leads there. I'll show you inside kind of where I put everything there. Another thing I finished up last night was installing the horn. Again, this is not the horn that comes in the Ryco turn signal kit. I always use these other horns just because they're so much louder. So got the horn mounted there. Also got the rock lights from Gorilla Whips mounted. So my first idea on these rock lights, probably show you a little bit better in the back here, was to use some loom clamps and actually clamp it to the roll cage here. And it was pretty secure, pretty tight. The problem that I found as I turned all the lights off in the shop and turned the rock lights on was that a lot of the light was shining more out than down. So in this case, in the back here, I ended up pulling all that off and then drilling and tapping into this piece of the brace back here for the bed, and then just bolting the rock lights to there. And that way the light is directed down, kind of like in this area, you know, around the tire like that, and then also in front of it. Obviously, you always get a shadow in this area here from the height of the tire. You know, in order to prevent that, the light would have to be way out here, and that's just not obviously going to work. So it does a lot better job, I feel, that way. So again, just drill and tap that little piece right there, and I put some Allen headed screws there, black ones, that keep everything looking the same. When you order your Gorilla Whips or your Gorilla Whip rock lights, you can also order these plugs. So normally this doesn't have a plug in it, but they do have an accessory that you can buy. They have one male and one female plug in there for, I think, $2. So order yourself a bunch of those. That way it protects the wires inside there from corrosion. They have a gasket in there that seals that all up. So still got to finish up tying up some wiring up in this area for that, but that's kind of what's going on there. And then up here for the whips themselves, this is a set of roll bar clamps. They're on Amazon. I think the brand is Bumbee, Bumbee, UTV. And they fit anywhere between 1.5 inches and a 2-inch roll bar. So this is 1 7/8 inches. So they have a shim that goes in here for a 2-inch bar. You just take that out And then they come with a bunch of flat rubber pieces to protect the roll bar. You put the thinnest ones on each side, one each, and bolt it up. So with the Gorilla Whips now, they're giving you these caps, and they just have like a little lanyard here on them. So I just stick them through the top bolt, right? So it can't fly off. And then when you have your whips off, you just take this plug and you put it on just like that. And that probably, obviously, number one, it prevents stuff going in there, you know, sand, dirt, debris, or whatever. But then it also prevents that spring that's in there, that tension spring that's in there, that gives this, you know, keeps that spring tension on there, prevents that from flying out. So that's pretty cool. That's a new feature there that they just recently added to Gorilla Whips. On a previous set of Gorilla Whips I did, if you check out my video on the Razor, the Pro, they didn't have that option at that time now. And now I guess it sounds like that comes standard with any set of Gorilla Whips that you purchase, I think is my understanding with talking with them on that. So let's go inside here. Bunch of wiring everywhere, of course. Heater's still not done, not mounted yet exactly. So back in here though, this is where the winch wires come in. Okay, this is the hot and ground wires. They're coming back here and tying into the bus bar that's right there. And then I have everything else tied back up underneath here. That's where the solenoid is mounted. I'm pretty sure you can't see it, but it's right there, right above this cross member here. Okay, that's where the solenoid is mounted. I actually set it on here and then drill through the footwell plastic here. And that just gives it something to rest on, so not all the weight is on the plastic. And you can see those two bolts there, and there. That's where it come through at. And then of course new switches. Again, from over the river and through the woods. We have a new switch, a new winch switch, and then a new heater switch. So that'll have low, off, and then high speeds once we get that wired up. This location here will be for the light bar. And I have the new version 2 of Sam's backup module. There it is right there. So talking with Jake over there, he's now made this smaller and it fits nice right down in there, connects right up to your data connector right here. And then there's just a short little pigtail that comes back and around. And the blue wire then comes down underneath here. Got it in some wire loom right here, all the way back. And then you can see that blue wire there pops out and goes up into the relay. So right there we have on the top right, we've got the relay from Sam's backup lights, and then also the fuse holder there from Sam's as well. The next step here is mounting the amplifier and the alpha control module from Gorilla Whips. I have this just temporarily kind of mocked up right now, as I just wanted to make sure all the rock lights, again, mounted right here. Wanted to make sure everything worked before I finalize the mounting location. So the last part of it, I think I was talking about how to tie in the Ryco turn signal brake lights back into this plug back here. So that came out all good. Again, I take apart the plug. I don't just cut the wire and fold it back and tape it up. I actually take the pin out of the plug and then cut the wire off there, and then use their solderless butt connector. My wires are all back underneath here, all zip tied up on both sides. And then this ties into the factory wire loom, comes up and around, and then goes to your brake lights. Here's that other rock light on the other side. Again, I have to finish this, getting this up and out of the way, up and off the heat shield. And then the main wire for these two rock lights will come down and around. There's a shield here for all of this wire and everything here. So that'll get all tied up, and then it goes back in behind here, and then it'll end up going in to the cab somewhere in about over there, which is between your rear seats. All right, so I think that gets caught up for now. A bunch of extra wire from Gorilla Whips that I'm going to be using to run the actual whips themselves in the back here. And then, yeah, I've got a list going on right now. Still got to get the roof on, or the roof rack, excuse me, and get the rear lights tied into Sam's backup module, and then get the new rigid front light bar mounted. And then kind of button everything up. We got the new seat. I already got one of the sliding brackets from the stock seats mounted on there. Need to get the other 3 mounted, and then I can put that in there. One thing I did touch on a little bit earlier, and so looking at this grab handle here, we knew that there was going to be an interaction problem between the rear seat that's going to go in here and this. And I think the option at this point, also looking online and reading some forums, going to cut this off completely. Some people have figured out how to just take half of it off. So we opted not to do that, basically because of the owner's kid that's going to be sitting in here. He won't be able to reach this anyway, right? So I'm gonna end up cutting this off here, grinding that all smooth, and then I've got some caps that we're going to use to plug that up, and got some touch-up paint coming. Hopefully it is the right color, and we'll touch up any paint that gets marred up there. But that's the plan at this point anyway. I'm going to kind of see how that goes. I'm going to take majority of it off and kind of see what it looks like in there a little bit better. But some people said they were able to cut this off, and then they just slid the grab handle piece on there. Didn't really bolt it back on there because of how stiff it is on there. I guess maybe it's not really needed. I had a hard time getting it off. I actually had to use rubber mallet and hit it pretty good several times to get it to come off. So I could see where it could probably pretty much just stay on its own. It probably doesn't need the bolts holding it from underneath here. That's a possibility. But again, the kids are young enough to where the middle child's going to be sitting back with a 4-point harness. And so he's not going to reach out here and need to grab this anyway. This is primarily for the, original passengers sitting here, more like adults, right? And just using it as a oh shit handle. So there you go. All right, we'll get caught up there and keep on working on stuff. All right.